The spotlight effect.
You trip slightly on a curb in front of a group of strangers, and for the next 10 minutes, you're convinced everyone in that group is still thinking about it. There's a name for this, the spotlight effect. In a 2000 study, participants wore a slightly embarrassing t-shirt into a room of strangers, then guessed how many people would remember what it looked like. On average, they guessed close to half. The actual number who remembered was closer to a quarter. In a follow-up, participants watching someone else wear the same shirt guessed far more accurately. The distortion only shows up when you're the one wearing it. Your brain treats your own actions and appearance as the center of the scene because to you they are. It's the same reason a small stumble at work replays in your head for hours while your coworkers forgot it by lunch. Everyone else is running the exact same spotlight on themselves. The fix isn't pretending you don't care what people think. It's remembering that everyone around you is too busy running their own spotlight to keep close tabs on yours. Next time you catch yourself replaying a small mistake, try to name the last 5 small mistakes someone else made in front of you. Most people can't name one. You're not being watched nearly as closely as it feels. You're just the only one holding the flashlight.
The halo effect.
You meet someone at a party, sharp outfit, easy, confident handshake, and within 30 seconds, some part of you has already decided they're probably smart and good at their job too, before they've said a single thing that actually proves it. This is called the halo effect. Back in 1920, U.S. Army officers were asked to rate soldiers on completely separate traits: intelligence, physique, leadership, without ever speaking to them. The ratings should have varied independently. Instead, soldiers rated as more physically impressive were also rated as smarter and better leaders, with no actual evidence for that second judgment. One positive trait was quietly leaking into every other one. The effect runs in reverse too. One off-putting trait can drag down every other judgment, something researchers call the horns effect. It still shows up constantly today. One modern study found attractive restaurant servers earned around $1,200 more a year in tips than equally skilled coworkers, simply because one trait unconsciously colored judgments about service quality too. You can't switch this off completely, but you can slow it down. When you notice a strong first impression forming, separate the trait you actually observed from the ones you're only assuming, and ask what specific evidence you actually have for the second one. The room didn't get smarter or dumber based on how someone looked. Your judgment just borrowed from the wrong pile. Anchoring bias. You've felt the pull of a crossed-out price before, the original number sitting right next to the sale number, making the sale number feel like a steal, even when you have no real idea what the item is actually worth. That pull has a name: anchoring bias. In a 1974 experiment, researchers spun a rigged wheel of fortune that could only land on 10 or 65, then asked an unrelated question: what percentage of countries in the United Nations are African? People who saw the wheel land on 10 guessed around 25%. People who saw it land on 65 guessed around 45%. The number on the wheel had nothing to do with the answer, but it dragged people's estimate toward it anyway. Later, researchers found the same pull in real salary negotiations. Whoever names a number first tends to steer where the final offer lands. The most effective fix researchers have found is generating your own estimate before you see anyone else's number: a price, a salary offer, a deadline. So the first anchor in the room is one you set yourself, not one someone handed you. The number on the wheel was never the answer. It just got there first. Self-serving bias. You ace a presentation and quietly credit your own preparation. You bomb the next one and blame the room's energy, a distracted audience, almost anything except your prep. Psychologists call this self-serving bias, one of the most consistently documented patterns in the research, dating back to a widely cited review in 1975. The pattern shows up almost everywhere researchers look for it. Students crediting good grades to intelligence, but bad grades to unfair tests. Traders crediting profitable trades to skill, but losing trades to market conditions. What makes this different from just being a sore loser is that it isn't conscious. your brain is quietly sorting evidence into two different piles depending on whether it flatters you, without you ever deciding to do it. Interestingly, research has found this pattern shows up less in people experiencing depression, a reminder that this bias is actually part of what keeps most people's self-image steady. One method shown to actually reduce this in studies is writing down your prediction for how something will go before it happens, then comparing it honestly to the outcome afterward. It's much harder to rewrite the story in your favor when your original prediction is sitting right there in your own handwriting. It's not that you're lying to everyone else, it's that you quietly rewrote the story for yourself first. Availability cascade. You open Twitter and everyone's talking about a plane crash. A few days later, you're nervous walking up to your own gate, even though flying is just as safe as it was last week. Nothing about the actual risk changed. Only how often you heard about it did. This pattern has a name, an availability cascade, first mapped out in 1999. The mechanism is simple but powerful. Every time a claim gets repeated publicly, it becomes easier to recall, which makes it feel more common and more urgent, which then justifies repeating it even more. Researchers point to things like shark attack panics as classic examples. The actual danger barely moves year to year, but the volume of repetition does, and repetition alone changes how dangerous something feels. Researchers call this the work of availability entrepreneurs, people or outlets who benefit from keeping a fear in circulation long after the original story's been picked apart. A practical check. Before treating a fear as newly urgent, ask whether the actual numbers behind it have changed, or just how often you've been hearing about it lately. Those are two completely different questions, and only one of them should change what you do. The world didn't get more dangerous. You just started hearing about it more. Hindsight bias. Your friend's relationship ends, and you immediately say, "Honestly, I always knew they weren't right for each other." Except a few months ago, you told someone else you thought they made a great couple. Researchers call it hindsight bias, or less formally, the "I knew it all along" effect. It was first studied closely in the mid-1970s, after someone noticed that clinicians often insisted, after the fact, that they'd seen a patient's outcome coming all along. In one well-known study, researchers asked college students to predict whether the Senate would confirm a Supreme Court nominee before the vote happened. Beforehand, 58% predicted he would be confirmed. After he was confirmed, 78% claimed they had predicted it. What makes this different from just having a fuzzy memory is that people don't misremember randomly. They specifically misremember in the direction that makes them look right. The only reliable defense researchers have found is writing predictions down beforehand, with a date attached, so you have an actual record instead of a memory that's free to reshape itself once you already know how things turned out. You didn't know it all along. You just edited the memory after the fact. The affect heuristic. You hear about a hot new stock everyone at work is excited about, and before you've looked at a single number, some part of you has already decided it's a safe bet. The excitement alone answered the question. This tendency has a name as well, the affect heuristic, mapped out clearly by research through the 1990s and 2000s. In one influential study, researchers asked people to judge the risks and benefits of everyday technologies and activities. Logically, something genuinely riskier should also be seen as lower in benefit, and vice versa. Instead, people who felt more positively about something rated it as both safer and more beneficial, and people who felt negatively rated it as both riskier and less beneficial, even though the two questions had nothing to do with each other. This showed up clearly with technologies like nuclear power, where a negative gut reaction alone predicted both a high risk and low benefit rating at once. What makes this different from simply having an opinion is that one feeling is secretly answering two separate questions at once without you noticing it happened. A useful check is separating the two questions on purpose, writing down the actual risk and the actual benefit as two independent estimates, rather than letting a single gut feeling quietly answer both. You weren't weighing the risk and the benefit separately. One feeling was doing both jobs at once. The Just-World Fallacy. A coworker gets laid off, and before you even hear the details, part of you starts quietly wondering what they must have done wrong, even though you have no idea what actually happened. There's a term for this too, the Just-World Fallacy, first studied closely in the mid-1960s. In one early study, researchers had people watch what they believed was a woman receiving electric shocks for wrong answers on a memory test. She was actually an actor, no real shocks given. Participants who believed they couldn't stop it rated her more negatively the longer her suffering continued, as if she must have deserved it. Believing the world is fundamentally fair is comforting. The cost is that when something clearly isn't fair, part of the mind would rather blame the person it happened to than accept that. It's the same instinct behind phrases like, "everything happens for a reason," comforting shorthand for a world that doesn't actually run on that rule. The check here is noticing when you're explaining someone's misfortune with a story you don't actually have evidence for. They probably weren't careful, they must have done something, and asking whether you'd accept that same explanation if it happened to you instead. It's not that people deserve what happens to them, it's that believing they do lets everyone else sleep a little easier. None of these traps mean something is wrong with you. They're just what a normal brain does under pressure. Like it if you caught yourself in one of these. Subscribe for more.